I buried him. That's what Jake Haro told investigators. Not in a moment of panic. Not in a courtroom under pressure. He said it calmly, directly, like a man who had finally admitted the unspeakable. A father. A 7-month-old baby. A secret buried in California soil. And a lie that unraveled a family, a community, and a justice system that should have seen this coming. Tonight, we walk through the cracks that allowed Emmanuel Haro to vanish, long before his name made the headlines. And trust me, by the end of this report, Jake Haro's words will stay with you forever. This is Captain Joachim. How are you today? Thank you for staying with us and supporting us this far. We do not take you for granted. Please, we will love to know where you are watching from. Please tell us in the comments, and if you have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button and become a member of this community that never lets crime get away. When Rebecca Haro made the 911 call on August 14th, her voice trembled as she claimed her baby had been taken from her car. She said she was attacked in a parking lot, that she blacked out, and when she woke up, Emmanuel was gone. But it didn't take long for investigators to spot the holes. There was no attacker, no camera anywhere in that UKPA. Parking lot captured anyone approaching her vehicle. Not only that, surveillance footage showed Rebecca arriving alone. No car seat, no baby. And then, the questions turned into suspicions. Search warrants were executed. Phones were analyzed. Location data cross-referenced. Digital footprints, the kind no one can erase, painted a damning picture. Emmanuel hadn't been seen since August 5th, 9 days before the alleged kidnapping. By now, law enforcement was operating under a grim, new assumption. Emmanuel Haro was never kidnapped. He was dead. And despite the rising pressure, Jake Haro joined the search efforts himself, standing alongside officers, even as they deployed cadaver dogs across remote, desert brush and hillsides off the I-60 freeway. Some might call that helping. Others might call it hiding in plain sight. But for all the technology, dogs, and manpower brought to bear, Emmanuel's body has still never been found. And that fact haunts this case more than anything else. On August 22nd, the case turned from suspicious to criminal. Both Jake and Rebecca Haro were arrested and charged with murder under California Penal Code 187 and filing a false police report under PC 148.5. The charges weren't just based on inconsistencies in their story. They were rooted in a disturbing pattern, one that led back to 2023. That year, Jake Haro was convicted of child abuse. His victim? His infant daughter, Carolina Haro. According to court records, Carolina suffered broken bones, bleeding in her brain, and spinal damage so severe that she's now permanently bedridden, diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And yet, the judge suspended Jake's prison sentence, giving him probation and work release. District Attorney Mike Hestron addressed it directly at a press conference.
The decision was absolutely outrageous. Mr. Haro should have been in prison at the time that this crime happened. And if that judge had done his job as he should have done, Emmanuel would be alive today. Instead,
the consequences of that decision are now horrifyingly clear. Both parents are being held on $1 million bail each. Their arraignment, originally set for late August, has been postponed to September 4th, as the defense prepares for a case that may hinge on forensic gaps and a body still missing. If convicted, Jake and Rebecca Haro face 25 years to life in prison. But no sentence, no matter how long, can undo what's already been lost. A 7-month-old baby, Emmanuel Haro, was reported missing by his mother, Rebecca Haro. She told police she'd been attacked in a parking lot outside a convenience store, that someone knocked her unconscious and took her baby. A horrifying claim. A mother in distress, a community on alert. But within hours, that narrative began to crumble. Investigators found no sign of a struggle, no witnesses, and most damning of all, no trace of Emmanuel in the surveillance footage from that day. Instead, the evidence began to point in a darker direction. Emmanuel wasn't abducted. He was never in the car. And authorities now believe that when Rebecca Haro made that 911 call, her baby boy was already dead. The suspects: his parents Jake Haro, 32, and Rebecca Haro, 41. The charges? Murder? And a lie that cost investigators critical time in a race to uncover the truth. What really happened to baby Emmanuel? That question would take detectives deeper into a history of abuse. And a chilling confession no one saw coming. August 5th, the last day anyone outside of his parents saw Emmanuel Haro alive. No photos. No public sightings. No doctor visits. Just silence. August 14th, 9 days later, Rebecca Haro calls 911. She claims she was assaulted in a parking lot in Ukaipa, that she was knocked unconscious, and that when she woke up her baby was gone. But within hours, the story begins to collapse. Surveillance footage shows no attack, no baby, and no indication Emmanuel was ever in that car. August 22nd, authorities arrest both Jake and Rebecca Haro. Charges: murder and filing a false police report. The search for Emmanuel is now a recovery mission. August 23rd to 27th, inside the Riverside County Jail, Jake Haro allegedly speaks to another inmate, unaware that the man is working with law enforcement. In that recorded conversation, Jake makes a chilling admission: "I buried him." Late August, cadaver dogs are brought in. Hillsides, desert brush, remote terrain all combed through. But as of this recording, Emmanuel Haro's body has not been found. And with each passing day, the truth gets harder to bury and harder to ignore. As news of Emmanuel Haro's disappearance and the chilling truth behind it spread, public outrage ignited across social media and local news outlets. People were stunned, not just by the tragedy itself, but by the history that preceded it. The 2023 child abuse conviction against Jake Haro, and the shockingly lenient sentence he received, became a rallying point for critics of the justice system. Questions flooded in. How could a man with a violent past be allowed back into a home with vulnerable children? How did the system fail to protect Emmanuel and, before him, his sister Carolina? District Attorney Mike Hestrin did not hold back in a press conference, bluntly stating, if that judge had done his job, Emmanuel would be alive. Calls for accountability reached from local courts to child protective services voices demanding reform to prevent another tragedy like this. For many, Emmanuel's story is a painful reminder that justice delayed is justice denied. And in this case, the cost was far too high. At the heart of this tragedy lies a system that failed Emmanuel and his sister, Carolina, when it mattered most. In 2023, Jake Haro was convicted of severe child abuse against Carolina. Injuries so grave they left her permanently disabled. Yet, despite the brutality of the case, he received no prison time, only probation and work release. Judicial leniency like this exposes dangerous gaps in how the justice system protects children from repeat offenders. Add to that the complexities of probation loopholes and the limited resources of child protective services, and the picture grows even darker. The Haro case is not just about two individuals. It's a stark example of systemic failure. Failure to intervene, failure to enforce meaningful consequences, and ultimately, failure to keep a vulnerable child safe. Until those failures are addressed, children like Emmanuel remain at risk. And that risk is one we all share. As this case unfolds, many critical questions remain unanswered. Where is Emmanuel's body? The search continues, but without physical evidence. The truth feels just out of reach. What really happened in the days leading up to August 5th? Was there a moment when help could have arrived? Did the justice system overlook warning signs in Jake, Haro's past signs that might have prevented this tragedy? And without a body, how will prosecutors build a case strong enough to bring justice? Finally, will the defense raise mental health issues or delve into complex family dynamics as part of their strategy? These questions linger, demanding answers not only for Emmanuel, but for the community and for every family at risk. Because in the search for truth, silence is never an option. Emmanuel Haro's story is a painful reminder of a tragedy that could and should have been prevented. It reveals the cracks in our systems, the courts, the child welfare agencies, and the very institutions entrusted to protect the most vulnerable among us. Emmanuel's life was brief, but his legacy must endure. He deserves more than silence, more than being a statistic. This case is a call to action to reform and strengthen the protections meant to shield innocent children from harm, because every child deserves a chance to live, and every community deserves justice. Emmanuel deserves both. What needs to change to prevent tragedies like Emmanuel's? We want to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. If you believe stories like this deserve attention, hit subscribe and join us at Captain Joachim for more investigations that demand justice. Because some stories aren't just news, they're a call for change. This story deserves to be told, for Emmanuel and for justice.